Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Dr. Julie Gallanty, who is the president and CEO of the New Jersey Alliance of the YMCAs.
Glad to be here. Thanks so much.
So glad you could join me. So in looking at kind of your history, your resume, it seems your almost entire career has been somehow affiliated with Ys. Is that true?
That is true.
So what brought you to the YMCA?
I was a kid in middle school, and I had a friend who said, let's go to the Y. They have this teen program called Teen Travels, and we used to take weekend day trips all over in the tri-state area. And so I met a bunch of teens, and I liked the people I was with and the advisors. And then I worked in camp, and then I went to college and came back and worked summer camp and kind of just worked my way out. When I got out of college, got a full-time job at the Y and never left.
So you clearly love the Y.
I do.
What is the Y's mission? What is it about the Y, what they do that really draws people to it? Because there are many people who that is a career, right?
100%.
And their families have gone, their kids have gone, et cetera.
Yeah. It's really about the spirit, the mind, and the body, and how do you connect people with each of those three areas so that they can live their best life. So, currently we think about youth development, healthy living, social responsibility, and how those play out in your life, whether you're a kid, whether you're an adult, whether you want to donate or volunteer, get in shape. It really is a community connector and really helps people find a place where they belong and where they can grow and be the best version of themselves.
So it's almost, and then they're like a family.
Right.
Yeah, like a family. What is the Alliance?
So the Alliance is a coalition of 30 independent YMCAs in the state of New Jersey. And what we do is we provide technical support and resources to those 30 Ys. They have a total of 84 branches across the state, so we're in 18 of the 21 counties. And in addition to that, we do get statewide funding or regional funding and then re-granted out to Ys. So we've gotten grants for safety around water, for chronic disease, for diabetes, for Parkinson's disease, for social mental health programs, food distribution. So we've gotten a lot of sort of statewide regional funding to support the local Ys.
So the Y is not just about going canoeing or going swimming then. It sounds as if there's a lot of programs, right? Okay. I mean, you mentioned a lot of different things. So if I move into a new area, never knew anything about the Y, and I've got 3 kids, from 3 to 15, can they all go to the Y?
Absolutely. So what I would recommend is that you would take a tour of the Y and look around and talk to the program director, the membership staff, and learn more about the Y and, understand what your kids are interested in doing. They have great programs, family programs on weekends. So instead of spending $200 going to the movies, you can do some nice activities and get to know your kids and engage with them. We have programs in after school, day camp, swimming teams, gymnastics teams, sports, civic engagement programs such as Youth in Government, Model UN. So we really run the gamut of all kinds of programs that really can bring in all kinds of interests that kids may have.
And so I'm thinking when you say, you talk about childcare or something, so there's something for the little kids, right? And then there's after school. Do they have tutoring, that type of stuff, where they're affiliated with the school?
So most of the after schools are run in the schools just to make it easier for the kids. And they provide usually homework time and a quiet time and then an active time, because usually the first thing kids want to do when they get out of school at 3 is run around. So they need to get out that energy. So they do some kind of active activity, depending on it's age appropriate. Then they usually have a snack, a quiet time, and then they try to do homework. So they try to encompass those 4 different areas within the course of the after school day. And they also have holiday camps, because as you know, there's about 40 days that kids have vacation that parents need to work. So the Ys also provide holiday care for the November break in New Jersey, spring break, Christmas break, and all of those holidays that, we have to work and your kids aren't in school.
And then all summer.
Right, and all summer.
All right, so you said something about food distribution. What's the food program?
So we have several Ys that provide food distribution through either SNAP programs or they have food pantries.
What is SNAP?
That's the supplemental nutrition program.
Okay. It's like what used to be food stamps, just
Correct.
so people who are listening or
Correct.
watching know what SNAP is.
Correct.
Okay.
So we do have food pantries in many of the Ys so that people can come in and get food. And, you would really be surprised at how many people are still food insecure. So the Ys are really committed to, having food available for families that need it. And that's all on our website. You can see which Ys do the food distribution and the SNAP registration.
So do some of the Ys, they are individual organizations, right? So they have a board.
Yeah. So
and then just like the board kind of look at the community to determine what kind of programming works, or
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have each Y is an independent 501c3. So they're a charitable organization. They have a CEO and a board of directors, and they develop a strategic plan and they figure out what does this community need. So the community needs of Newark might be different than the community needs of the Hamilton Y or the Lakeland Hills Y or the Montclair Y. So they really try to think about their service area and then try to deliver programs that align with that. So ultimately, I think what the Y is really trying to do is to create a place where we connect communities together. I think post-COVID, people are really searching for a place where you can make connections. Since we don't go to the store as much, we get everything delivered. And you need a place where you can sort of meet other people and not be in your house all the time. So I think whatever your age is, whether you're 3 years old, whether you're 5, whether you're 15, whether you're a working adult or a senior, the Y is a really wonderful place to connect with different people and not be so lonely, because there's a real loneliness epidemic in the United States. So our ultimate goal is for the Ys to be this community convener or connector.
Have the Ys found that kids have changed and their needs have changed when you talk about COVID and loneliness and that type of thing? Or have kids sort of remain the same? They just need connections, and we got to figure out how to do that.
There does seem to be an increase in mental health, sort of concerns. And I do think the introduction of social media and cell phones sort of does interrupt kids' abilities to sort of have that free time to play and just to be kids. Mm-hmm. But the Ys really try during the time that they're in the Y to really give kids a chance to be kids and not to use social media, not to go on their phones, and to really learn how to talk to each other, right? How to manage their big feelings. I'm mad, I'm excited, I'm frustrated, so that they learn how to express themselves appropriately, which, adults could probably learn a little bit too.
No.
So we really do work hard on the soft interpersonal skills and really supporting kids learning that in after school, as well as learning sort of how to play dodgeball or how to play a board game.
Do some of the Ys partner with a community group that might either provide some of those skills, or are those, you have staff at each Y who maybe they're a psychologist or a social worker or some other mental health professional?
That is a good question. So there's several Ys that have social workers or behavior specialists that really work and support the after-school staff to help them, I think, learn strategies when a kid is struggling and help them navigate how to model and show children a better way to help them manage when they're feeling scared or frustrated. Otherwise, I think partner with other organizations. I think it's very customized to the Y.
Okay. So I know you mentioned something about civic engagement, but I also know there's a group of young people who get involved in learning more about the legislative process, or I think you said, Model UN. Talk about some of those programs, because I know they are near and dear to your heart.
Yes, they are. So we have 2 programs for the middle school and high school kids. Model UN, which we call MUN, is a program where kids are assigned, middle school and high school students are assigned a country, and they learn about the country, and then they go away to a conference where they then represent in a mock experience.
But not in that country necessarily.
No, they actually go to Hershey Park.
Oh, okay.
So that program has 1,200 kids that go annually to that. And those kids are from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and I think it's Washington, D.C. So that's a huge program, and they really have a wonderful experience. It's 3 days in January, and you can just sign up, see the list of the Ys in New Jersey that offer that program. Youth in Government, we call YAG, is a program for middle school and high school students where they learn the role of legislation in the state. So we have current youth governor that's elected by the students from the past conference, a lieutenant governor. We have commissioners that the governor and the lieutenant governor appoint, very similar to what we're experiencing now with our new governor. And the students can learn focus on one of four areas. So the first one is legislation, where they come up with legislation. They go into committee and they debate it, and their fellow legislators, student legislators, either approve it, pass committee or not, and then it goes to the governor for either veto or passing. And then we have the judicial, so they get cases, and the students are assigned both sides of the case, and they learn how to debate the case. So that's a really good experience. They work with a volunteer attorney to do that. And then we have the lobbyists. So they take the role of the lobbyist and advocate for different things that they believe in. And then finally, we have the press corps. So they cover the event, they interview people, and they do clips. So it really gives the students an experience of, number one, leadership, how to stand up and speak up, which, when you're in ninth grade can be terrifying in front of your peers. And also learning about issues and policies that are passionate to them. And, when you're at this conference, you really are inspired by how articulate they are, how passionate they are about creating a world that's really going to be good for when they graduate college or get their first job and move out of their house and sort of live an adult life. And it's they really are getting equipped to learn the adult skills of learning how to advocate for themselves and for their community for a better quality of life. It's really a great program.
And I'm assuming that's over a period of time, right?
So we started in October. So the ninth graders come in on October, and then the conference is in March or April. So we're still working on the date. We do have one pre-ledge day, which is like a practice one day where they kind of practice their committee work, and the legislators work on that, the judicial. But it's a 3-day conference, Friday through Sunday, and the kids are totally engaged from when they arrive Friday morning to Sunday lunch. They play their roles as legislators, and the other wonderful thing about the program is they support each other. So if you have a 9th grader, 10th grader who can't speak up or is terrified, they really encourage them, because part of the program is to really get everybody to use their voice. And they really are great about if their voice is different than somebody else's voice, being respectful and listening to the varying opinions, and figuring out how to do the pro-con debate so they can really defend their bill or what they believe in. So it's really a good experience for life skills as well as leadership skills.
And the Y staff support this, or you have a special group of people?
So we have delegations. So there's about 10 YMCAs that have delegations. So they have an advisor, which is usually a teen director that works in the local Ys. And then we have some high schools in New Jersey that do it. And they have either social studies teachers or history teachers that volunteer their time to get the kids ready, the high school students ready to participate in the program.
It sounds like a big commitment.
Yeah.
Of the youth, but clearly a big commitment of the people who support them.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about who are the YMCA staff. Who are these people who go the extra mile for kids?
So the Y is, for many people, is a first employer. So if you go around in a meeting and you ask who worked at a Y, almost everybody raises their hand or had a experience with the Y. So either they were a counselor in camp, or they were a lifeguard, or they were working in the membership desk or something. So I think as a first employer for many people, it teaches you how to get a job and hold a job. And it teaches you those interpersonal skills about how to sort of think on your feet, learn the rules, learn how things are. But the Y has great possibilities for training and development. So you can start out so I started out in the youth department, but then I went to membership, and then I went to housing, and then I went back to programs. So you have a lot of flexibility in sort of figuring out what you want to do in your career. And there's a lot of career development internally in the Y to support professional development.
So people then stay.
Yeah.
You're not an exception to the rule.
Correct.
Okay. And I would think if people had a good experience like you did when they were young, if they start working at a Y, they want to make sure the families who come in have that same wonderful experience. So there's almost a commitment to saying, I had a great time. I want to make sure you had a great time. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are the Ys different, let's say, in an urban city versus we do have some rural parts of New Jersey out in a rural community.
They are. I think each Y really reflects their community. And remember, their board reflects their community. So traditionally, most of the boards come from the local area. So the board of the Lakeland Hills Y might be different than the board of the capital area YMCA in Trenton. It's just, and they really do try to provide programs and services that represent the needs of that local community. So they do community needs assessments or talk to members and really find out what they're looking for.
And then they can use the Alliance as sort of a resource, right?
Correct.
So do you share or your staff share a curriculum or how to put a program together if they say, well, we want to do this art program?
So we do have some resources. We have a national YMCA that also has those resources. So between those two, those are really good resources. And I would say the Y staff community is very generous. So if you want to start a pickleball is a big thing right now. If you want to start a pickleball program, there's several Ys that are doing pickleball and they're happy to share how it works and what you need to do and their learnings. Or if you want to start a sports league or after school program or nursery program, or we have housing for low income people. So if you want to do any of those things, Y people are really generous and will share their expertise to help you, pursue whatever it is you want to pursue.
That's great. I'm thinking, since you mentioned you do get some government funding for some of the program, which you then give to the local Ys, that has conditions on it in terms of there's some licensing requirement or something else that Ys have to comply with, right? So just so people who might be listening or watching, they know people have background checks. There's things people have to do, correct?
Yes. So for all childcare programs, I think almost all of them are regulated. And so all of them require a background check. But the Ys in the state of New Jersey all have every staff member goes through a criminal background check through what we call Presidium, because we're really committed to child safety. So even if you work in the fitness center, or you're a lifeguard, or you work in the back office, every employee goes through a background check.
That's good to know, because I know people get concerned. So you want to make sure they know. So what are some of the reasons that parents should think about in terms of making a decision whether to send their kids to become a member of the Y?
So I think the Y is a great way to learn about the variety in your community. So when you take a swimming class or you take a sports class, right, you're not with the people that you usually go to school with. And I think it expands your community and your friends and your connections. And I think that's a good thing. I think we are way too isolated, adults and kids. And I think it's a great way to meet other people and to stay connected and to have a different community than your school community or maybe your neighborhood community. Because I think we need support from all aspects of our life. And I think the Y as a community convener is a good way to start there.
So I'm thinking kids will come 2 or 3 days a week, right? Or would they might only come on a weekend?
Is this for after school kids pretty much come school days.
Okay.
Swimming, usually they come 1 day a week to learn to swim or safety around water. You might have kids on sports teams, so it would depend upon how the sports team was derived. We do have programs with kids on the autism spectrum or special needs. So I think those are really designed specifically to make sure their experience is safe and welcoming for the child and not overwhelming. So I think it really depends upon the program and what was best for the kid and the youth and what the content is.
I'm thinking all of this costs money, right? So the Ys are funded by membership.
Correct.
And then
donations. So we are a charity and we always are looking for support and sponsors.
Okay. So if somebody says, wow, they're hearing this, they said, oh, I used to belong to Y years ago. Do most Ys run some type of an event every year to raise money?
So they run an annual support campaign.
Okay.
I think most participate in the Giving Tuesday campaign, the first Tuesday after Thanksgiving. Always donations are accepted, and the Alliance also takes donations. But, we are really focused on statewide initiatives like chronic disease. Our youth and government program needs some subsidies because it does cost a lot of money to use a hotel for 400 kids for a whole weekend. So we're looking for generous donors to help support civic engagement with our high school students. And Ys also provide scholarships. So if you're not able to pay the full cost, each Y has a scholarship program, and they depend upon the donations of generous people who want to pay it forward to do that.
Do the Ys, either through the Alliance, through you, or individually, get government grants from the federal government, or?
So each Y gets some federal, not every Y, but you have to apply. So there are Ys that get money from the federal government. We recently got some money from the state to support after-school programming, and specifically a program where we help kids learn about how to manage their big feelings. So we partner with Harmony Academy, and we provide a curriculum, really brief curriculum, 15 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week, where kids have little practice sessions on learning how to express themselves in different areas and help them manage and learn like the skills of how to talk to people and manage, like I said, the big feelings that one has. So we're really excited about that funding.
Do more kids have big feelings these days?
They do. The mental health issue is a big deal. And
I don't mean to make light of it, I'm sure it is, but it's when you say big feelings, it's...
Yeah, I think that's how adults hear it better. I think if I say mental health, I think people think about it in an adult way. I think kids, they're just trying to figure out, I'm really mad you took my pencil and I'm going to punch you. So maybe if you figured out a way to use your words and say, Mary, I didn't like when you took my pencil. Could you give it back to me, or can you ask me, and I would be happy to share it with you.
Do some of the adults have more big feelings?
I'm sure they do.
Maybe we could all do a little.
I think all of us can benefit from soft communication skills.
No, that's really, it's interesting. It's an interesting way to phrase it, but you're correct. I mean, kids, and I think the younger they learn how to do that, the better they will be over the long time, right? And probably the more friends they'll have.
Yeah, so we initially had funding from the Horizon Foundation to help us, and we just finished the first year, and both the staff and the kids and their parents reported that we could see improvements, that the kids were able to manage their behavior better. And they had, I think, behavior contracts at each of the sites. We did it at 21 sites, and all the kids followed the rules. So there was something with the structure and a place where it was appropriate to sort of say, Mary, I don't want you to take my pencil. That's not nice. That made me mad. Use your words next time. And learning how to say that, is really important, because as you get older, there's bigger, harder conversations to have. So if you're able to use your words and not other ways to express yourself, it usually ends better. And it's important to learn how to express yourself appropriately, right? It's a skill that is learned, right? And it takes practice. Sometimes you may not say it perfectly,
right? But,
it's learning how to get the words out and learning how to express yourself. So you tell people how you feel. If you're scared or you're worried or you're angry, right? It's better to learn through practice how to share that so that somebody can help you through that, or you can help yourself get through it.
Right. You said something about the Ys doing needs assessments.
Mm-hmm.
What kinds of things are they looking at when they do a needs assessment?
I think it really depends upon the Y. So a Y might to say, gee, we seem to have a lot of seniors coming in. Maybe we should poll the seniors and see what would be interesting for them, what would interest them to come and use the Y. What are they looking for? Or parents, what would we like added to an after-school program? Or, we have a potential to do a UPK in a Y. So do we have enough people in the community who would come to the Y to do a universal pre-K where they send their kids here? So I think it's basically a touch base with the community to see how we're doing and what are some of the needs that are unmet. So we're not looking to duplicate services. We're looking to, supplement, do stuff that nobody else is doing.
Because it sounds as if some of the counties do needs assessments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think they do them every couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess some of the same questions get asked in terms of how can we better coordinate, get our services together, and actually meet the needs of the families in our communities or in our county.
Yeah, I mean, one of the popular programs is Parkinson's. So we have several Ys that are providing support for Parkinson's, people who have Parkinson's. So that's a tough disease, and it affects the whole family. So usually the caregiver also needs a break. But it provides a supportive community where you can take a class, and there's all different programs. There's Dancing with Parkinson's, I think biking, climbing wall. So it doesn't really matter what the exercise is. It all helps you manage the disease and maybe delay some of the progression. But you need supports, whether it's Parkinson's, whether it's, a child with autism or on the spectrum, or somebody who's addressing cancer or diabetes. You really do need a village, right, to sort of help you through it. When you have a health issue, it can be very lonely. And I think there's where the Y is uniquely positioned to connect people and community and help them feel supported, right? So when you're in your group, your cancer group, it's hard to talk about having cancer because everybody around you is freaked out and scared that you're going to get sicker. But when you're around people who are going through cancer treatment, there's a kind of camaraderie that is hard to find elsewhere, that you really do need to share that experience with somebody who can truly understand what you're going through. So
I would have never thought that the Ys would have provided that type of support group. I always think of people go back to the hospital or the treatment center, and that's what
so we do. We have, and if you look on our website again, we have people Parkinson's programs, diabetes programs, blood pressure, autism, Alzheimer's. So we really do try to be a connector in the community to help support people. We have the building, we have the space, and most of those state agencies will provide training for our staff or resources. And we're trying to see if we can get medical or health organizations to come in and do screenings, because now it's harder to get appointments with doctors. I'm not sure what that's about. So, if we can get people to get blood pressure screenings in Ys instead of waiting to go to the doctor, that might be helpful. So we're trying to think about ways to support communities and what they need.
You made me think we had interviewed Dr. Nicole McGrath-Barnes from Kindersmile, and one of the Ys had dental chairs that I think Delta Dental put in initially, and now she manages the staff and does that. But originally it was volunteer dentists came into the Ys and kids could get screened. And the next thing she said, it was neighborhood. People just could come in and
correct.
So it sounds similar depending on what.
And that's what we're finding is that people are looking for those community kind of conveners where they can just go in and get support and whatever they need. And sometimes they don't realize that they need support, but you can have a grandfather who has Parkinson's that could be impacting a kid. So, it's just good to have a place, an organization that can be that community convener.
And the grandpa could go dancing, kid could be painting, and mom gets an hour to read her book.
I love that.
Dad says,
that is a beautiful thing.
Just give me an hour of quiet, right? Or maybe get us a basketball game. No, it's really interesting. So, what you're describing is what I'm thinking is a very welcoming community for really anybody. And it sounds like at almost any Y you can find a friend, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So that's really wonderful. So you mentioned there's 30 YMCAs that are part of the Alliance, right? And they're in 18 counties. And there's all this work and programming you do, which, I'm sure staff is extremely competent, but I can't imagine they can provide all of this program. So do you work with other community partners, or do the Ys partner with other organizations?
Yes. So the Alliance actually has a really robust statewide partnership. So we have a bunch of organizations that we work with, American Cancer Association, Alzheimer's, diabetes, Parkinson's, autism. And then we also are inviting anybody who's interested in partnering with the Ys, the 30 Ys in New Jersey, to contact the Alliance and set up a time to meet with us to talk about ways that we can partner to share the programming or expertise with our YMCA communities.
Oh, that's interesting. So if somebody is from the Alzheimer's Association and I joined the Y and it turns out my mother has Alzheimer's, then that Y could contact the Alzheimer's Association and say, what do we do?
Right.
To make this person feel comfortable.
Right. And a lot of organizations need places to go. Right. So, if you think about the Alzheimer's disease, how do we support people who have Alzheimer's in their families? Right. So you obviously have literature that you give out to families, but it would be good to have them support I think there's 10 Ys that provide programs with families with Alzheimer's. So then we can then train the staff, provide additional resources. And again, it's like connecting the communities, right? So again, you feel supported, you feel safe, and you're getting the food you need to help you deal with whatever it is you're dealing with. So we're, like I said, we're open to any organization that's willing to partner with us to provide services to the 30 Ys.
That's terrific. No, this I think is really helpful. There's a lot of information here that I think I know I'm learning, and I think a lot of people are going to learn a lot from
Yes.
you.
Well, thank you. Thanks again. This has been great.
Can people volunteer at WISE?
Yes, the Ys do have all sorts of opportunities for volunteering. So some of them do it in the food pantry, or they might have events where they do community service, or might be helping in a program, or so might need volunteers in a Parkinson program or a diabetes program. The programs with children and licensing is a little trickier. So we can do volunteers, but any licensed program, it's just trickier because they have to go through many, many hoops to be approved to work with the kids.
Got it. But I would assume such like a food pantry, that could be almost a separate thing.
And they do street fairs. Every Y does fundraising. We are a charity. Times are tough. There's less government money. And Ys, like other nonprofits, really do need and you responsibly use those donated dollars. And so, any donations to any Y would be greatly appreciated.
Do they rent out rooms for parties at Ys?
They do.
Oh.
Yes, birthday parties are particularly popular.
Okay.
And they do pool parties, gym parties, and regular arts and crafts parties.
It's amazing. And I have to say, I have not been at a YMCA in a very, very long time.
Well, you need to go.
I know. I have to find one near me. So in terms of the work of the Alliance, it sounds as if that's really all to be a support to help connect all the local Ys to whatever they need.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And then in addition to that, we do have 4 Ys that do low-income housing. So, and they're in 4 different counties. So we have the Newark Y, the Patterson Y, the Gateway Y, and the Raritan Bay Y. So each of them provide housing. There's different types of low-income housing, but I think it's about 900 beds a night. So there's 900 people that have a safe, clean place to sleep.
So
in New Jersey.
Tell me how that works. Is it like a shelter or?
So few of them are shelters. So they have different. There's different types of low income housing. So there's emergency shelter. There's SROs, dormitory style housing. We have some families that that need housing that have Section 8. We have some long-term housing, which is usually 1 to 2 years. So each Y gets different funding streams to support people who are housing insecure.
Were Ys always providing that type of service?
Yes, actually, it was a big deal. The history of the Y is the Y was invented.
I guess we should have started there.
There you go.
What is the history of the Y?
So the Y is celebrating its 175th birthday. So we're having a big national party in New Orleans in September.
Okay.
And basically was started to save the young Christian men, get the title, from the evils of the city. So during the Industrial Revolution, the young men would come from the farms and work in the cities. And so the Ys that were built on train lines had housing. They had cafeterias, barbershops, and gyms. So the men would work from dawn to dusk and then go to the Y. And it was a religious organization where they would live a Christian life so they wouldn't be tainted by the evils of the city. And they had all of this stuff to keep them in the building so they didn't have to go outside after they worked. So if you look at Ys that are on train lines, so Summit Y, that if you look, that's near the train, that used to have housing. Montclair used to have housing. So we had those older Ys built in the 1920s. And then the newer Ys built in, I would say after the 50s, are more suburban Ys where they don't have housing.
So you'd get a room or you'd get a dorm bed? You'd get a room.
You get a room, a very small room. Yep. And then you had, a cafeteria. They had, some of them had bowling alleys. They had chapels. They had, prayer time. So it was really to save those young Christian boys from the evils of the city.
I laugh, but it actually, I guess it makes sense. So when did the YWCAs come about?
So that's a separate organization, and they basically created a women's organization that was very similar to the men's, and same thing with the YMHA. So the YMCA was the first kind of organization that kind of focused on a men's group. And, 175 years ago, the world was much more segregated, men and women, so it makes sense. So the Ys became integrated when the law changed, I believe, in 1974, where they had to accept women. So that was for many organizations.
Okay, so the YWCAs
are not affiliated with the YMCA.
But they still do exist.
They still do exist, and they have a different mission than the Y, but they do equally amazing work. The YWCA.
But you're saying the YMCAs got integrated at some point.
Right. So they basically, right.
And then what's the YH?
A Hebrew Association, or JCCs.
Oh, I've heard of JCC.
Yeah.
So it's a YH. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would know way too much.
No, but I mean,
history trivia.
Your life is, in many ways, been all filtered through the YMCA. So, of course, you know the history of it. I never thought to ask you about the history. Sorry.
So I think what's really interesting about the Y is that wherever you go, you can belong, and it can really improve your life. You meet people, you try something new, whether it's a pottery class or aerobics class or swimming or, Zumba or whatever it may be. And you can just be brave, try something new, and you're in a safe place where you can belong to a new community. And I think that's really an amazing thing. Not everybody has that opportunity.
No, clearly they don't. And if I go from New Jersey and decide to move to Denver, Colorado.
There's a Y there. Yeah.
And they could get connected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Wow. This has been very enlightening. One last question. So in terms of all the changes, and I don't know if you have a comment on this or not, there's a lot of changes federally, right, that are impacting low-income people. And my sense is when you talk about housing, Section 8 housing, that's for low-income people. I'm sure some of the work you do with seniors is for all income levels, but low-income people. Are the Ys seeing an impact in their programming or in the people they're trying to help because of a lot of federal changes, whether it be around SNAP or whether changes to Medicaid?
I think that there's a lot more requests for financial aid. So Ys are really working hard to raise money so that if somebody, isn't able to work because maybe they didn't qualify for Medicaid, but they still need childcare to look for a job, that the Ys can, make sure that they can get funding, scholarship money from individuals or corporations to offset that cost, to give them a scholarship through a generous donation.
Okay. So they're just trying to continue the good work of the community and help people where they are.
Correct. So we're really trying to serve everybody we can who walks through our doors. So.
Well, Julie, I really appreciate this. I learned some new things. I hope people who watch this video or listen to the podcast learn some new things and that they really do reach out and either join a Y or help support a Y in the work you do.
Thank you so much. This has really been great. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much for watching. Visit the description to find out more information about today's conversation. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell if you enjoyed the video and want to be updated when our newest interviews are released.